right, hello everyone. My name is Natalia and welcome to our second training session. So, for those who are not familiar with our activities, Enjoy AI is a non-profit organization that is organizing worldwide competitions for kids and teenagers from 3 to 22 years old. So far, we are conducting activities in 24 countries. However, we are aiming to extend it further. So last time I explained the Enjoy AI 2024 Closing Ceremony of Sports Challenge. So for those who did not participate, I recommend you to find it on our YouTube channel. This time we will have a closer look at the Enjoy AI 2024 Space Animal City Challenge. I will provide you a clear and detailed explanation of all the tasks and scoring rules that are involved in the Space Animal City. This challenge, even though it is designed for the youngest kids, it is very interesting because there are many different ways how the participants can do each of the tasks. For example, it includes the teleport rule. All right, so before we begin, I'd like to remind you to please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras for the smooth experience for everyone. And also remember that if you will have any questions or doubts, leave us a message in a chat. We will answer you straight after the webinar. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to give you a few words about the Space Animal City itself. So the Space Animal City is one of the challenges that is involved in this year's competitions. It is designed for kids in the preschool and early elementary school age. For this challenge, participants are required to control the robots, to classify different animals, and complete tasks as a team. So for this challenge, it's all about teamwork and collaboration. All right, now let's watch a short video showcasing robots successfully performing the tasks for the Space Animal City challenge. After that, I will explain all the rules in details. All right, so as you can see behind me, there is a competition field for the Space Animal City. So I will tell you a few words about the environment for the field, as well as what the field includes. So when it comes to the environment, the field needs to be held indoor. It cannot be exposed to the sunlight. Also, it has to be illuminated with the cool and low brightness light. As well, the field has to be free from any magnetic interference. So the field itself is in a size of 216 over 120 centimeters. It is separated into two parts by the white dashed line, as you can see here in the middle. Also, one part of the field contains a few black guiding lines that are 2.5 centimeters wide. Each part of the field has a robot base, which size is 25 over 25 centimeters. So one base is located here, and the other robot base is located right here on the other side. When it comes to the basic rules for the Space Animal City, the players have 180 seconds to finish the round. It is exactly 180 seconds for the round. The team must contain one coach and two students. one coach and two students. And two students work together to complete the challenge. There are 6 types of tasks. The departure, food collecting, animal feeding, sightseeing, animal classifying, and the return. So the departure and the return are related to the robot bases. When it comes to the food collecting, it is located here. There are 2 stations for the food collecting. When it comes to the animal feeding, the task is localized right here. And regarding the sightseeing, there are 4 structures that are also located on this side in 4 points. The task areas are settled and are not gonna change. However, the placement of the cubes, as you can see, the cubes are localized right here all over the field. So the placement of the cubes will be set up on the competition day exactly before the debugging phase, and it will stay the same for the whole round. So when it comes to that, the judges will decide about that setup. So each of 2 players operate on one side of the field, and the robots cannot completely cross the line. So as I said before, we have the white dashed line in the middle of the field, and robots cannot completely cross this line. Robots can cross the line a little bit, like any part of the robot can be overlapping with this line. However, the robot cannot completely cross the line, because if the robot completely crosses the line, it automatically triggers a retry. So when it comes to the robots and the control, the robot size cannot exceed 25 centimeters when it's in the base. So when the robot is inside the base, its size, each of its measurements cannot exceed 25 centimeters, same as the base size. However, when the robot leaves the base, it can extend its parts. So when the robot is inside the base, each of its measurements cannot exceed 25 centimeters. However, when the robot leaves the base, it can expand its parts. So participants create their own robots using the Make-U 20 or 20 Pro models. The difference is that the Pro model includes some additional parts. When it comes to the programming part, participants can choose between programming with the coding cards or programming with the coding pad. So for the coding cards, there are actually 2 ways how the players can do it. So they can either scan and run one card at a time, or they can program the whole thing and then start the program. So for the coding cards, both those ways are considered as a programming. And players can choose between the programming and the remote control. For remote control, they can use the coding pad. However, what is important to point out here is that for the player on the right side of the field, the one that contains the black guiding lines, if remote control is used at any point, the score in the end is deducted by 30%. All right, so right now it's the interesting part of this challenge that kids might really like. So the robot bases work as a teleport for all cubes they collect. Here I have few examples of the cubes that are placed in the field. to show you how it works. So the robot bases work as a teleport. So all the cubes that are collected in the base can be moved to the other base. So right now, the cube is considered as collected when any of its parts is overlapping with the base. So of course, when the cube is fully in the base, it is considered as collected. However, if any part of it is within the base or it's overlapping with the base, it is also considered as collected. So when the cubes are collected in the base, then the player can move the cubes to the other base, just like the teleport works. So all the cubes that are collected in this base can be moved by the player to the other base, really, just like the teleport works. All right, right now I'm gonna explain you all the 6 tasks one by one. So first of them is the departure. So for this task, if the robot leaves the base and none of its parts is overlapping with the base area, the team scores 20 points. So when the robot fully leaves the base and any of its parts is not overlapping with the base anymore, then the team scores 20 points. Points are awarded for this task only once to the team, regardless of times of the departure. All right, the next task is the food collecting task. So there are 2 food collecting task areas set on the left side of the field. As you can see, one of them is right here, and the other one is located right here. I have it right now in my hand so you can see it more clearly. So the red cubes are the food that is on top of those constructions. For this task, robot collects the food and then brings it back to the base. So for this task, robot needs to collect the food, which is the red cubes, and bring it back to the base. And there are 2 ways how the participants can get points here. So the first one is if student uses a robot to push or pull the cube back to the base. And the second way is if participant uses the robot to carry the cube back to the base and any part of the robot is overlapping with the base. So there are 2 ways how students can do it. First one is the student can use a robot to push or pull the cube back to the base. Or the second way is that the student can use the robot to carry the cube and any part of the robot has to be overlapping with the base. Then the team scores points. So there are 2 stations for this task, 2 red cubes, which is food. For each cube collected, the team gets 10 points. All right, so the next task is called the animal feeding. So the animal feeding task is set on the right side of the field. To do so, the player who collected the food teleports the cubes to the base on the right side, just like we explained before about the teleport rule. So there are 2 ways how the food can be actually delivered by this player. So this player delivers it using hands, and in this case, they get 5 points for each cube. However, if the player uses the robot to do that, they get 15 points for each cube. And there are 2 other important things for this task. One of them is that if cube drops on the field, then the robot can reset the task by bringing the cube back to the base, and then he can go again. Another important thing is that the cube needs to be touching the bottom of the task area so the team can score points. It is super important here that the cube has to be completely on the blue bottom, which is the task area. If the cube is partially on the field, then the team does not score points for this task, at least for this cube. So another thing is that, for example, if one cube lands perfectly inside on the task area, and then the second cube lands on top of it, and this top cube is not touching the bottom of the task area, then the team does not score points for the second cube. All right, the next task is the sightseeing. So for this task, there are 4 sightseeing structures placed on the right side of the field. There are 2 in top and there are 2 at the bottom. Again, I have one right here to show you in a more clear way. So the robot needs to push the 30 beam inside to raise the sign. I'll show you again how it works. The robot needs to push this inside to raise the sign. So we need to look here at this blue part, and when its projection is overlapping with the task area, the player gets 15 points. So as you can see here, this blue part is overlapping with the task area. So for each of them where player does that correctly, they get 15 points. All right, the next task is the animal classifying. So this task actually requires both players to work together. So there are 16 squares on the field with 16 randomly placed cubes on them. So each cube represents an animal, like for example, I can show you right here. So if you're in a classroom, this is actually the part where you can give your students some interesting facts about the animals or the nature. So in the middle of the field, there are 4 areas representing the animal categories. We have, as you can see, mammals, we have reptiles, birds, and the fish. So for this task, the players need to classify the cubes by the animal category and place them on the right field. It seems difficult for young kids. However, the cube's colors are corresponding with the field colors, so it's easier for them. For example, the yellow one, as you can see, there is a snake here, so it belongs to reptiles. So the colors are corresponding with the animal categories. All right, so each time when the player places the right cube in the right category, the team gets 5 points. The rule is exactly the same. Any part of the cube needs to be within the area to get the points. So any part of the cube has to be within the animal category area so the student can get the points. All right, the last task is called the return. So the return is the last task. No matter if all previous tasks are completed or no, players can do it if they decided to finish the round. So for this task, both robots need to come back to the base, or any parts of a robot needs to be overlapping with the base, need to be within the base. So then the team gets 20 points. And points are awarded only once. If one of the robots never leaves the base, the points are not awarded. And another thing is that when players decide to do this last task, the return, when the robot returns to the base, it cannot move anymore, as this is the last task. All right. Also, another thing is that, as you could see on the previous video, the models Make-U 20 and 20 Pro have the 5-in-1 grayscale sensor. However, after several practice, we realized that it's too difficult for young kids to do the line following task. So we just decided to remove that part. All right, so I already explained you everything that is important regarding the main Animal Space City rules.
Space Animal City. 1. Collaborative task-based competition. 2. Each team has 1 to 2 members. The competition field is 216 centimeters times 120 centimeters in size. A white dashed line divides the field into 2 parts. Each part has a robot base of 25 times 25 centimeters in size. There are a few black guiding lines and areas to run tasks on the field. 1. Before your robot departs from the base, its length, width, and height cannot exceed 25 centimeters. 2. After the departure, some parts of the robot may be unfolded. Each round lasts for 180 seconds. 1. If time is up or you give a stop signal, the referee calculates your points. 2. All teams are ranked by point total. If 2 teams are tied, the team that uses less time ranks higher.
Okay, so right now there are a few additional rules that are related to the retries and failures that I'm going to explain. So when it comes to the retries, there are actually several ways how players can trigger a retry. So one of them is when player touches the robot, and here it does not matter if it's done by accident or it's done on purpose. If player touches the robot, it triggers a retry. Another way is when player just simply asks for the retry, or when the judge proposes the retry to the player and player agrees. Another way is when the robot crosses fully the white line in the middle. So as I said before, robots cannot fully cross this line because it triggers a retry. So when the robot fully crosses the white line, it triggers a retry automatically. Also, there are additional points that the team can get if they do not retry. So if they do not retry at all, they get additional 20 points. Then each retry costs 5 points. For example, one retry, they get additional 15 points. And if player has 4 or more retries, they don't get any additional points at all. So when it comes to the amount of retries, there is unlimited amount of retries actually. However, we need to remember here that the participants have 180 seconds to finish the round. So the amount of retries is unlimited. However, within this 180 seconds limit time, of course. All right, so there are also a few situations in which players might actually get disqualified from the round. So one of those situations is when player picks up or move the structures on purpose. So when the player picks up or move any of those structures, and if it's done on purpose, then he gets disqualified. However, if it's done by accident, then it's okay. So unless it affects the result of the task, then player gets disqualified. Another situation like that is when player or robot destroy the task area. So when that happens for the first time, they get a warning and 0 points for the task. However, if it happens again, then the player gets disqualified from the current round. All right, so that would be all for today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Remember to leave a message in a chat if you have any questions or if anything wasn't clear enough. We will get back to you with all the answers. Also, if you have any suggestions or comments regarding our webinars, you can also let us know. So the next webinar will be coming soon, so stay tuned for our updates. Thank you all again for coming and see you next time. Bye!